Hello, horror fans. Welcome back to Room 237. Coming at you with another 80s slasher film. Not really sure what to say about this one. Now, my favorite slasher films are ones from 1980, 81, 82. And there's a lot from that era that have been hard to find, hard to get, fell into obscurity. And this is one I never thought I'd see, but just picked this up, finally got to see it. 1980s, Don't Answer the Phone. Now, even though this cover is simple, it kind of... I like the cover. I wish the guy wasn't in it. It kind of makes it look like a remake. I actually had to keep making sure this wasn't the remake. I don't even know what to say about this. This movie feels like 3 or 4 different movies put together. I mean, the only thing I'd ever seen for the longest time was on Going to Pieces, the documentary on slash films. Very good documentary. It shows parts of the trailer. With the trailers like, run if you dare, hide if you can, scream if you're able to, but whatever you do, don't answer the phone. And I thought this was going to be another straightforward slasher film. A lot of critics called this another Halloween ripoff. It couldn't be farther from Halloween. Okay. You have this guy named Kirk Smith, who you find out that's his name way into the movie. During the credits, it says he's played by Nicholas Worth, who was in Darkman and Swamp Thing. During the opening credits, it just says Nicholas Worth as the killer. And his deal is he's a Vietnam vet. He's a pornographic photographer, and he's a misogynistic killer of women. Like, the movie opens up with him, there's a woman on the phone, and he punches her and he strangles her. But actually, no, the film opens up with him standing shirtless in front of a mirror. He ties a pantyhose around his neck, and there's like a crucifix on the mirror, and it's him like flexing and breathing in front of the mirror. Then he kills the woman on the phone. And, you get a lot of shots of him by himself in the apartment. Like, some shots he's, like, lifting weights, doing all this weird grunt. He's very over the top. But there's, like, no lighting. Like, he's dimly lit, and it's just black and darkness all behind him. I like those shots. It's kind of surreal. So I'm like, okay, so it's like the year before Maniac, but it's kind of like that. You follow the killer, sort of done like a realistic kind of sense. And, he goes around strangling women, and he sexually mutilates their bodies. Which it doesn't show much. It's more so implied. For example, when the police are talking about the first victim we see, he says something to the coroner about her breast. And he says, which one? And the guy's like, the one that was almost bitten off. Then he asked him, like, well, was she sexually assaulted? The guy says something, he's like, be serious. And he says, every orifice she had. So it's more so implied. Now, I'm making this sound like a slasher film with more disturbing shit put to it. It's not like that. The reason why it feels like... Okay, you get these 2 detectives who are assigned to the case. And they are comic relief. They're purposely goofy cops. probably an homage to the two goofy cops on Last House on the Left, which for some reason, every time in a horror movie, especially slasher films, you have goofy cops. It's an homage to the goofy cops on Last House on the Left, which was the most criticized, unliked thing in Last House on the Left. Nobody liked that aspect. But they're major characters. And I mean, some parts are kind of funny, but it can take you out of the film. In fact, there's a part where they want to talk to a pimp because might as well, actually I'll wait till I get to that. So, and basically, so the killer, you have the shots of him by himself, him killing women. He also calls this radio show that's kind of like Dr. Phil. It's like a psychiatrist show with this woman, Dr. Gale. He says it's this guy named Ramon. He says he gets frequent headaches and blackouts. He has misogynistic fantasies. Then at one point he gets a hooker, calls the show, and then, but he has the girl say something about headache. She's with a guy that says he has headache problems. And then he starts strangling her. She starts screaming. They hear it at the radio show. And then he says, are you listening, Dr. Gale? So she knows it's him. But when he's killing the hooker, her pimp hears her screaming and runs up. There's supposed to be a fight. He has a switchblade. He just runs at the guy. And he just goes like this, hits his head in the wall, hits him in the head with a bottle. So the cops want to talk to the pimp, and they go to this whorehouse, drug house, and it's this big, long comedy scene about everyone freaking out because they think they're Vice, and they're just kind of goofing around, sort of joking around with the scenario. It's a good chunk of the film, and it would have been funny if it was in a comedy, because it was enough to take me out of the movie. I actually forgot what I was watching. It wasn't until they showed the killer again, was I just like, oh, wait a minute, I forgot I was watching this. It's all over the place. It's trying to be this slasher film, but with more stuff to it, like maybe a slasher, but with like Last House on the Left type stuff mixed in with it, even though it doesn't get that hardcore. And then it's just got this comedy thrown in with the two detectives. And, when he's by himself, he's... I mean, this is probably why it's so misogynistic and people thought these movies were made for, like, women haters. Because he's, like, walking around, and he's just like, you like me now, Dad? You like me now, Dad? And he's, like, looking himself in the mirror. It's like, you're a man. You're a man. You raped them all. You killed them all. You can tell the guy's fucking psycho. And Nicholas Worth, I remember him in Swamp Thing. He plays Bruno. He's the guy that gets turned into some animal at the end. I like Swamp Thing. But he is not a good actor in this. He is so over the top. One of the detectives, hooks up and starts a thing with Dr. Gale. And by the end of it, they figure out, they get a lead that, Kirk Smith, he's the guy we want. So they go to his house, but this old, like, Woody Allen guy walks in. So they start arresting him, and his briefcase is full of toys. He's like, doesn't look like a pornographic photographer to me. Yeah, they have, like, New York accents, even though it takes place in California. So he's like some toy guy, and he's like, no, you want the photographer next door. So they're, even during the climax, when the movie's supposed to pick up, like, and, be a climax, they're still trying to be silly. And just the whole climax of the film, the killer is just so over the top. He beats the hell out of Dr. Gale with he punches her a bunch, slaps her a bunch, and pretty brutal for like a slasher film. They usually just kill him. It's not like, I mean, it did feel more like a serial killer movie than like a slasher film. I think there's a difference. A serial killer movie is like a realistic killer. A slasher is just like, no, let's just over the top kill people. This guy, she's trying to talk him down. Like, did you have a puppy as a kid? And he starts crying. Then he gets those, he's like, I killed it because I shit on the carpet. And he's yelling at her like, shut up or I'll rip your tit off. Just so over the top. And then the cop finally gets there and he shoots him and he's making these like dying noises, but he sounds like a bad villain on like Power Rangers. Just his sounds don't make sense for someone that's been shot. Said drowning because of the end. And then he runs outside and there's like this slow motion, like he gets shot and just like, I like the look of the blood coming out of his mouth. I thought that looked cool. The movie's not very bloody because, again, he just strangles his victims. Then he falls in the pool, and there's this famous line that a lot of the critics kind of made fun of. The detective says, "Adios, creep." So, I mean, I thought this was going to be more like Maniac or more, or like Toolbox Murders or something like another 1980 slasher film, like taken seriously. It's not like that. I didn't know this was going to be a rant video. I did not care for this movie at all. I mean, I used to have the movie Don't Go Near the Park, which is supposed to be another big whatever. That movie's a piece of shit too. That movie was just weird. This was a video nasty. I can see why. I mean, if not for the gore and blood, which it lacks, I mean, the whole fact that he's like a sexual predator and I guess mutilates the bodies after, which you don't see, they just talk about. There is one scene where there's this woman that talks about sexual abuse from her father to Dr. Gale. She's one of her patients. She leaves, he follows her home, and she's laying in bed, and he comes in, and he like ties her up. He keeps calling himself daddy, and takes her stuffed animals, puts stuffed animals all around her. He also has a thing for candles. He's always lighting candles. It's like a ceremony for him. And he always wears his camo jacket, like pantyhose, to obscure his face. And you don't see it. They don't make a big deal of it. They don't make any effect or sound effect. He like dumps the candle wax on her. And then that's the end of the scene. I like the look of the film. It is gritty and grainy and old. I mean, it does feel like you're watching like a VHS, which I like. But hell, even like the shots on the back, they make it seem like it's another great slasher, and there's not much to this. I see why it fell into obscurity. I can't really recommend this very much. I mean, I'm glad I have it for the collection because, I do think it's an important. It sucks ass, but it's always mentioned on horror documentaries, especially slasher ones. But I'm just starting to notice ones with "don't" in the title suck. They're not as good as, they're not as good as you think they'll be, but they're just bad. I could have lived with him only strangling them and not being overly gory had it not been for all the comedy. I could have even done with the police procedural part of it because I like that also. but the comedy was too much. The goofy cops. I'm tired of seeing goofy cops in horror movies. They're just trying to do Last House on the Left. It really did feel like a buddy cop comedy at times. But, I mean, again, even, like, spitter and sputter again. A Maniac is a slasher, but that's more into the mind and the life of a psychopath, which is what this one is. It's just not done as well. The guy was a pretty bad actor. But, yeah, I can't really recommend this too well. I'm pretty disappointed with it. But, yeah. That's don't answer the phone. In other words, don't watch this movie. Yeah, for room 237, thank you.